Welcome to the Power of Not Reacting, Master Emotional Control, written and published by ReadFlow Audiobook. In a world that constantly pulls at our emotions, where every word, glance, or situation can ignite a reaction, the ability to remain calm, centered, and in control has become one of the most valuable skills a person can master. Emotional control is not about suppressing what you feel. It is about choosing how you respond, so your energy, focus, and decisions remain aligned with your highest self. This audiobook is your complete guide to mastering that art. Together we'll explore practical strategies, psychological insights, and actionable exercises that will help you build resilience, stay composed in stressful situations, and transform emotional triggers into opportunities for clarity and strength. Each chapter is designed not only to give you deep understanding, but also to provide tools you can apply immediately in your life. By the end of this journey, you will no longer feel pulled into unnecessary conflict or drained by emotional chaos. Instead, you will walk away with the unshakable ability to pause, choose, and respond with intention, a power that will elevate every aspect of your personal and professional life. So let us begin this transformational journey together. And remember, true strength is not found in reacting. It is found in staying still, staying clear, and staying in control. Chapter 1. Understanding the Power of Emotional Control. Before you can master the art of not reacting, you must first understand why emotional control is so powerful, and why losing it can cost you peace, clarity, and even opportunities in life. Think about the last time you reacted impulsively. Perhaps someone cut you off in traffic and you immediately exploded in anger. Or maybe a colleague said something critical, and before you had time to think, you snapped back defensively. In those moments, your reaction felt automatic, like a spark catching fire. But afterward, when the emotion cooled, you might have felt regret, frustration, or even shame. This is the cycle of reactive behavior: short-term release, long-term consequences. The cost of reactivity. Reactivity is expensive. It drains your energy, damages relationships, and clouds your judgment. Each time you react impulsively, you are giving away your power to external circumstances. The truth is, when you are reactive, you are no longer in control. Your emotions are controlling you. At work, reactivity can make you appear unprofessional, rash, or unreliable. In relationships, it can create unnecessary conflict, pushing people away. In personal growth, it can stall your progress, because you're too busy fighting battles that don't matter. Most importantly, reactivity keeps you trapped in survival mode, your brain and body locked in constant fight or flight, unable to think clearly, strategize, or lead yourself forward. Why emotional control is true strength. Now, let's flip the script. Imagine the same situations, but instead of reacting, you pause. The driver cuts you off, but you breathe, stay calm, and continue your drive. A colleague criticizes you, and instead of snapping back, you listen, process, and choose whether to respond later or not at all. This pause is not weakness, it is power. Emotional control gives you the freedom to respond on your terms, not on the terms of stress, anger, or insecurity. It allows you to. It's no coincidence that some of the most influential leaders, thinkers, and creators in history practiced emotional control. From Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius to visionary leaders like Nelson Mandela, the ability to remain composed under pressure was not just a personal trait, it was a strategic advantage. The science behind reactivity. To understand why it feels so hard not to react, you need to look at the brain. The human brain is wired for survival. When you perceive a threat, whether it's physical danger or just an insult, the amygdala, the emotional center of the brain, activates instantly. This sends a surge of chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol through your body, preparing you to fight or flee. The problem is that in modern life, most threats aren't actually life or death. They're emails, arguments, deadlines, or traffic jams. Yet your brain reacts as if you're facing a wild animal. Without training your logical brain, the prefrontal cortex gets bypassed and you end up reacting emotionally instead of responding rationally. The good news: emotional control is a skill. With practice, you can train your brain to pause, regulate, and choose. This is what we mean by not reacting. not ignoring your emotions but refusing to let them run the show. The first step, awareness. Mastering emotional control begins with awareness. You cannot change what you don't notice. Start by becoming more mindful of your triggers. Who or what tends to set you off? In which environments do you feel most reactive? What emotions tend to dominate your reactions? Anger, defensiveness, fear, impatience. Once you begin to notice these patterns, you create a space between stimulus and response. This space is where your power lives. Actionable practice. The pause technique. Here's a simple but powerful practice. Pause before you respond. Take a slow breath. Remind yourself, I have a choice. Only then decide whether to respond and how. At first, this may feel unnatural. You may still feel the urge to lash out. But every time you pause, you strengthen the muscle of self-control. Over time, this pause will become your new default. Key takeaway. Reactivity drains you, while emotional control empowers you. The first step to mastering the power of not reacting is awareness of your triggers and the conscious practice of pausing before you respond. Remember, strength is not in the loud reaction, it is in the quiet choice. Chapter 2. The Psychology of Reactivity and the Freedom of Response. In Chapter 1, we uncovered the foundation. Reactivity robs you of your power, while emotional control grants you freedom. Now let us dive deeper into the psychology of reactivity, what truly happens in your mind and body when you react, and why mastering your response is the gateway to emotional freedom. Why we react the way we do. Reactivity is not random. It is a conditioned pattern of thought, emotion, and behavior that has been reinforced over years of repetition. Your brain develops shortcuts, neural pathways that make reactions automatic. If, for example, you've always responded to criticism with defensiveness, your brain wires that reaction as the default. The next time you feel criticized, your body doesn't pause to reflect, it jumps straight into defense mode. This is why reactivity feels like it happens to you instead of being something you choose. Your nervous system has been programmed over time. The good news is that these patterns are not permanent. The brain is highly adaptable. It can be rewired through consistent intentional practice. The trap of emotional hijacking. Psychologists call this automatic takeover and amygdala hijack. When your amygdala perceives danger, whether it's an insult, rejection, or unexpected problem, it overrides your rational brain, flooding you with stress hormones. Your heart races, your breathing shortens, your body tenses. In that state, you're primed to react, not to think. But here's the crucial truth. Not every trigger deserves a reaction. Most of the threats you face in daily life are not real dangers. They're challenges, inconveniences, or even opportunities in disguise. By reacting without thinking, you let the amygdala run your life and you surrender the wisdom of your higher mind, the freedom of response. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine being in total control of your emotional state. Someone insults you, but instead of reacting, you smile calmly and carry on. A coworker challenges you, but instead of snapping, you pause, reflect, and respond with clarity. This is not about suppressing your emotions, it's about mastering them. Emotional control means acknowledging what you feel, but choosing to channel it wisely. Instead of anger controlling you, you direct your energy toward constructive action. Instead of fear paralyzing you, you turn it into courage. This is what psychologists call response flexibility. The ability to pause, evaluate, and choose the best course of action. This flexibility is freedom. It means you are no longer a prisoner of your instincts. You are the master of your behavior. Practical framework. The R method to begin rewiring your brain toward response rather than reaction. Practice this simple framework called REST. R, recognize. Become aware that you're triggered. Label what you're feeling. Anger, fear, frustration, defensiveness. E, exhale. Take a slow breath. Breathing signals to your nervous system that you are safe and begins to calm the body. S, shift. Ask yourself, what outcome do I want? This moves your focus from the problem to the solution. T, take action. Respond with intention, not impulse. Sometimes the action is to speak calmly. Sometimes it's to say nothing at all. At first, this may feel forced, but with practice, REST becomes second nature, helping you build the mental discipline to choose wisely in the heat of the moment. The power of detachment. Another key to mastering reactivity is cultivating detachment. Detachment does not mean indifference. It means not allowing other people's words, opinions, or actions to dictate your internal state. When you practice detachment, you realize someone else's anger is not your responsibility. Someone else's criticism does not define your worth. Someone else's opinion cannot control your peace unless you let it. When you detach, you break the chain of reactivity. You no longer feel compelled to fight every battle. You no longer allow negativity to hijack your emotions. You become grounded, unshakable. Actionable practice. The observation exercise. One powerful way to practice detachment is through observation. The next time someone tries to provoke you, imagine yourself as an observer watching the scene unfold. Instead of being inside the storm, you are standing outside, simply noticing. Notice your emotions rise. Notice the urge to react, but don't act on it. This simple shift in perspective creates enough space for self-control. Over time, you'll find that you don't need to respond to everything. In fact, silence often communicates more strength than words. By practicing awareness, pausing, and detachment, you begin to break free from the cycle of emotional hijacking. The true power lies not in reacting quickly, but in responding wisely. Remember, your strength is in your pause and your freedom is in your choice. Chapter 3. The Power of the Pause. Mastering the gap between trigger and response. Between every trigger and your response there is a hidden space. It is invisible, yet it holds the key to self-mastery, freedom, and control. Most people rush past it, reacting impulsively to whatever life throws at them. But those who learn to use this space, the pause, gain a profound power that changes the way they live, lead, and relate to others. This chapter will take you deep into the art of the pause, why it matters, how it works, and how you can train yourself to use it as your most reliable tool for mastering emotional control. Why the pause is the gateway to power. When something triggers you, an insult, a setback, a disappointment, your first instinct is to react. This is human nature. The problem is that instant reactions often lead to regret. Harsh words you can't take back, rash decisions that harm your progress, or actions that damage relationships. But when you pause, you interrupt this cycle. You stop the momentum of anger, fear, or anxiety before it takes over. The pause gives you a chance to evaluate: is this worth my energy? What outcome do I want? How can I respond in a way that serves me rather than sabotages me? Great leaders, negotiators, and thinkers all share this ability. They are not those who never feel emotions. They feel them like everyone else. But they do not let emotions dictate their actions. Their pause becomes their shield and their weapon. The science behind the pause. To truly appreciate the pause, we must understand what happens in the brain. When you are triggered, your amygdala, the brain's alarm system, activates instantly, flooding your body with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol. This prepares you to fight, flee, or freeze. If you react immediately, you act under the control of this primitive system, but by pausing even for just a few seconds, you allow the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of your brain, to regain control. This shift is crucial. It enables you to think clearly, see the bigger picture, and choose a response instead of being driven by impulse. Research shows that even practices as simple as taking a deep breath or counting to 10 can lower stress levels and re-engage higher thinking. Over time, consistent practice of the pause rewires your brain, making calm responses your new default. But if you pause, breathe, and let the initial surge of emotions settle, you can respond with calm authority. I understand your point, but let's focus on solutions. The difference is night and day. In parenting or relationships, children, partners, or friends may frustrate you. A quick reaction, yelling or criticizing, can damage trust, but a pause gives you time to choose a response that nurtures instead of wounds. In negotiations or business, silence in a negotiation is powerful. When someone makes an offer, pausing before responding communicates confidence. It also pressures the other person to fill the silence, often revealing more than they intended. In daily stressors, from traffic jams to long lines, life constantly tests your patience. These moments may seem small, but practicing the pause here strengthens your ability to use it in high-stakes situations. This interrupts the automatic cycle of reactivity. The 5-second rule: count slowly to 5 in your mind. Those few seconds are often enough to stop emotional hijacking. Anchor questions. Ask yourself, what outcome do I want here? Will reacting help or hurt me? What would the best version of me do right now? Create a ritual pause. Train yourself to pause before answering texts, emails, or phone calls, especially when upset. This builds the habit of responding, not reacting. Step away physically. If emotions are overwhelming, give yourself space. Walking, splashing water on your face, or even excusing yourself for a moment resets your nervous system. The hidden strength of silence. Silence, when intentional, communicates power. Those who are quick to respond are often seen as emotional and impulsive, but those who pause and speak with restraint are seen as thoughtful, wise, and composed. In negotiations, silence forces others to reveal more. In arguments, silence disarms aggression. In leadership, silence builds trust and authority. Remember, you don't need to respond to every word, question, or insult. Sometimes, silence itself is the most powerful response. Building the habit of the pause. Like any skill, mastering the pause requires practice. Begin small. Pause before answering trivial questions. Pause when someone interrupts you. Pause before reacting to minor inconveniences. The more you practice in small moments, the stronger your ability becomes in critical situations. You will begin to experience freedom. The freedom to choose how you show up in every moment. That is true power. Key takeaway: the pause is not weakness, it is strength. It is the gap between impulse and intention, between reactivity and mastery. By practicing the pause, you reclaim control over your emotions and actions. In that sacred space, you find freedom, the freedom to choose who you are and how you live. Chapter 4. Rewiring your triggers, turning emotional landmines into opportunities for growth. Triggers are unavoidable. They're woven into the fabric of everyday life. The careless words of a friend, an unexpected challenge at work, or even a small frustration like spilled coffee can activate them. These emotional sparks often feel sudden and overwhelming, yet they are rarely random. They are deeply tied to your history, your values, and your subconscious beliefs. While most people view triggers as irritants or enemies, this chapter reframes them as gifts in disguise, tools for building emotional resilience and opportunities to strengthen your inner control. The deeper psychology of triggers. Triggers are rooted in the brain's survival system. When something feels threatening, whether it truly is or not, your amygdala activates the fight or flight response. This happens faster than conscious thought, which is why reactions can feel uncontrollable. But here's the truth. What you experience as a trigger is often not about the present moment. It's about stored emotional memory, past wounds. If you were criticized harshly as a child, even mild feedback today can feel like a personal attack. Unmet needs. If recognition is important to you but rarely given, being overlooked can feel intolerable. Core beliefs. If you carry the belief "I am not enough," almost any rejection or dismissal can activate deep emotional pain. Understanding this allows you to shift perspective. A trigger is not proof that others are wrong. It's a signal that something inside you is asking to be healed. How trigger shape identity and relationship. Left unmanaged, triggers create repeating cycles in your life. You may find yourself snapping at loved ones and then regretting it. Defensiveness in conversations, which erodes trust. Avoiding situations that make you uncomfortable, shrinking your potential. Over time, unmanaged triggers can define your reputation. You become the angry one, the defensive one, or the fragile one. In contrast, mastering your triggers builds respect. People notice calm in the face of chaos. They lean on your stability, trust your leadership, and value your presence. These exercises allow you to transform emotional landmines into pathways of growth. The trigger journal method. Write down situations that caused strong reactions. Note the intensity of your emotions, 1 to 10 scale. Ask, what belief or wound might this trigger be linked to? Over time, you'll see patterns that reveal your deepest emotional themes. The reframe drill. Each time you're triggered, ask, how else can I interpret this? Example, Instead of "he disrespected me," try "he's projecting his own insecurity. It's not about me." This shift creates emotional space and reduces the sting. The future self response. Picture your strongest, most composed future self. Ask, how would that version of me respond right now? By practicing this, you align your reaction with who you want to become, not who you've. Trigger exposure training. Just like a muscle strengthens under resistance, you can build resilience by exposing yourself to minor triggers intentionally. Example: if traffic enrages you, consciously practice calm breathing during commutes. Treat it as training for bigger challenges. Real-life examples of trigger mastery. The executive, Sarah, a corporate leader, used to explode whenever her ideas were challenged in meetings. After journaling, she realized her trigger was rooted in childhood, being constantly dismissed by her parents. By reframing criticism as feedback for growth, she shifted from defensive to collaborative, earning more respect at work. The athlete, James, a basketball player, would lose focus every time a referee made a bad call. Instead of spiraling into frustration, he began rehearsing calm responses during practice. Within weeks, he became known for his composure, which improved both his performance and leadership on the court. The parent, Lisa, a mother of two, found herself yelling when her kids ignored instructions. By recognizing that her trigger was actually tied to feeling unheard in her own childhood, she changed her approach. Instead of raising her voice, she used calm but firm consistency. Over time, her kids began listening more, not less. The power of anticipation. Advanced practice. To elevate mastery further, start anticipating triggers before they occur. This is the mark of true emotional control. Identify high-risk situations. Is it a recurring argument with a partner? Stressful deadlines at work? Difficult family gatherings? Rehearse calmness in advance. Before the situation arises, visualize yourself responding with clarity and control. Pre-plan empowered phrases. Write and rehearse phrases like, "I hear your point. Let me share mine. I need a moment before I respond." Anticipation takes you from reactive to proactive, making you feel prepared instead of vulnerable. Every time you are tested, you gain a chance to strengthen your control. Just like physical training builds muscles, emotional training builds resilience. This mindset turns life itself into a classroom. Instead of dreading difficult people or situations, you begin to welcome them, not because you enjoy discomfort, but because each challenge becomes proof of your growth. Key takeaway: triggers are not random. They are signals from your past, mirrors of your beliefs, and invitations to grow. By identifying, reframing, and anticipating them, you move from being a victim of your emotions to the master of your inner world. Every trigger faced with calm is a victory, a step closer to unshakable emotional control. Chapter 5. The Discipline of Pause. Creating space between stimulus and response. One of the most profound abilities you can cultivate in mastering emotional control is the discipline of the pause. It sounds simple, even obvious, but it is deceptively difficult and immensely powerful. The pause is the thin space between what happens to you, stimulus, and how you respond, reaction. In that split-second window lies your freedom, your strength, and your ability to direct your life instead of being directed by impulses. Most people skip the pause altogether. Something triggers them, and before they even realize it, they snap, lash out, withdraw, or make a rash decision. Over time, this erodes trust, damages relationships, and weakens self-respect. But when you learn to master the pause, you gain control over the trajectory of your emotions, your actions, and ultimately, your destiny. Why the pause is so powerful: it shifts you from instinct to intention. Your brain is wired to react instantly. The amygdala pushes you toward fight, flight, or freeze. But when you pause, you activate the prefrontal cortex, the logical, decision-making part of your brain. Instead of reacting from survival, you respond from strength. It protects your relationships. Words spoken in anger can't be unsaid. Actions taken in haste can't always be undone. The pause creates a safety net between you and others. giving you time to choose a response that builds trust instead of destroying it. It strengthens your self-mastery. Every time you successfully pause, you reinforce the belief that you are in charge of your emotions. This builds confidence and resilience that carries into every area of your life. It expands your options. When you rush into reaction, you have only one path, the impulse. But when you pause, you open the door to multiple responses, calm explanation, a boundary, humor, redirection, or even silence. The mechanics of the pause. Let's break down how to put this into practice. Notice the physical signal. Triggers show up in your body before your mind catches up. Tight chest, clenched jaw, racing heart. Train yourself to notice these early warning signals. They are your body's way of saying, now is the time to pause. Breathe deep and slow. A single deep breath through the nose and out through the mouth interrupts the stress cycle. Even 5 seconds of intentional breathing creates a micro pause that buys you space for conscious choice. Label the emotion. Quietly say to yourself, this is anger, this is fear, this is frustration. Neuroscience shows that labeling emotions reduces their intensity. By naming it, you step outside of it. Ask a grounding question. Insert a mental checkpoint. What outcome do I want here? How would my best self respond? Will this matter in a year? Choose response over reaction. After creating space, make your choice. Sometimes that choice is silence. Sometimes it's a calm statement. Sometimes it's walking away. But the key is, it's chosen, not automatic. Practical training for the pause. Like any skill, pausing must be practiced. Here are structured exercises to build it into your daily life. Micro pause practice. Several times a day, intentionally pause before small action. For example, before sending a text, taking a bite of food, or answering a question. This trains your brain to insert space by default. Delay the reply drill. The next time someone sends a message that frustrates you, commit to waiting 10 minutes before responding. Use that time to breathe, reflect, and choose your words with intention. Red light training. Use every stoplight, waiting line, or loading screen as a reminder to pause. Close your eyes if safe. Breathe and reset. This conditions you to associate waiting with calmness instead of irritation. The 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise. When emotions run high, anchor yourself in the present moment. 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, 1 thing you can taste. This sensory awareness reduces emotional intensity and strengthens the pause. Common challenges in practicing the pause. Even though the concept is simple, several obstacles often derail people. The justified reaction trap. Many believe they're entitled to react because they're right. But being right doesn't make reactions effective. Pause anyway, because effectiveness matters more than righteousness. The "it's too fast" obstacle. Some say the moment passes too quickly to pause. That's why physical awareness training is essential. If you catch the bodily cues early, the pause becomes possible. The "I'll look weak" belief. Some fear that not reacting instantly makes them look weak. In truth, it makes you look stronger. Composure commands more respect than uncontrolled outbursts ever will. Real-life applications of the pause. In relationships, a partner pauses during an argument, realizing that what they were about to say would wound more than heal. Choosing silence in that moment prevents lasting damage. In everyday life, a commuter pauses instead of honking and shouting at a careless driver. The choice preserves peace of mind for the rest of the day. Advanced practice. Extending the pause into reflection. Mastering the pause doesn't stop at creating space in the moment. It extends into reflection afterward. After emotionally charged situations, ask yourself, what triggered me? How well did I pause? What could I do better next time? By reflecting, you strengthen the pause for future challenges, turning each encounter into training for mastery. The pause as a spiritual discipline. Across cultures and philosophies, the pause is revered. In Stoicism, Marcus Aurelius emphasized withholding immediate judgment. In mindfulness, The pause is the essence of awareness. In leadership, great figures are remembered not for their reactions, but for their deliberate, chosen responses. Thus, the pause isn't just a psychological trick. It's a way of living with clarity, presence, and power. Key takeaway: the pause is the hidden superpower of emotional control. By learning to slow down between stimulus and response, you shift from instinct to intention, from reaction to leadership. Practicing the pause daily, through breath, awareness, and reflection, creates a life defined not by impulses, but by chosen actions that align with your highest self. Chapter 6. Detachment. Mastering the art of emotional freedom. If there is one practice that separates those who are constantly pulled by the chaos of life from those who maintain inner calm and clarity, it is detachment. Detachment does not mean indifference, coldness, or apathy. True detachment means being fully engaged with life while refusing to be enslaved by outcomes, opinions, or external chaos. Most of our emotional suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our attachment to how we think things should be. We grip tightly to expectations, we cling to outcomes, and we tie our self-worth to external validation. When reality doesn't match our attachments, we suffer. By practicing detachment, you learn to release control over what you cannot change while strengthening control over what you can, your response, your effort, your focus. Why detachment is essential for emotional control over. It breaks the cycle of reactivity. Attachment makes you reactive. If you need someone's approval, a rejection hurts deeply. If you must win every argument, every disagreement destabilizes you. Detachment frees you from these traps. It protects your peace of mind. When you're detached, criticism doesn't wound you and praise doesn't intoxicate you. You appreciate both but depend on neither. This balanced mindset gives you unshakable peace. It builds inner strength. The person who can walk away from external validation or outcomes is the one who cannot be manipulated. Detachment makes you strong because nothing outside of you has the power to dictate your emotional state. It increases effectiveness. Ironically, by being detached from results, you often achieve more. Why? Because detachment removes desperation. You negotiate more calmly, create more clearly, and lead more confidently when you are not emotionally hostage to an outcome. The foundations of detachment. 1. Detach from outcomes. Instead of obsessing over what will happen, focus on what you can do in this moment. Results matter, but clinging to them causes fear and stress. The healthiest perspective is, do your best, let go of the rest. 2. Detach from the opinions of others. What others think of you is none of your business. Their perspective reflects their lens, not your truth. Detachment doesn't mean ignoring feedback, but it means not letting opinions define your worth. 3. Detach from emotional highs and lows. Success and failure are both temporary. Detachment teaches you not to be carried away by temporary highs or destroyed by temporary lows. Balance is power. 4. Detach from the need to control. Life is unpredictable. The more you try to control everything, the more frustrated you become. Detachment is about surrendering what you can't control while mastering what you can. Your response, your effort, your mind's practical steps to build detachment. Practice the observer mind. Imagine watching yourself from a distance, like a character in a movie. Instead of being consumed by emotions, you step back and witness them. This shift creates space between you and your feeling. Use the "does this matter?" test. When something upsets you, ask, will this matter in a week, a month, a year? This question instantly shrinks the weight of most problems. Limit emotional investment in external factors. Care deeply about your values, your growth, and your principles, but refuse to overinvest in things outside your control, like traffic, gossip, or the moods of others. Daily letting go ritual. Each evening, reflect on what frustrated you that day. Visualize releasing it, like setting down a heavy stone you no longer need to carry. This strengthens the habit of not clinging. Practice minimalism of the mind. Detachment is not just about emotions, it's about mental clutter. Simplify your commitments, limit unnecessary drama, and keep your focus sharp. A simpler life creates calmer emotions. Real-life applications of detachment. In negotiations, detachment gives you leverage. When you are not desperate to close a deal, you negotiate with strength and clarity. In relationships, detachment prevents codependency. You love freely, without needing the other person to complete you. In leadership, detachment allows leaders to make hard decisions without being ruled by fear of being disliked. In personal growth, detachment keeps you consistent. You show up daily for your habits because you value the process, not because you're addicted to immediate result. Advanced detachment practices. Meditation for non-attachment. Practice sitting quietly and observing thoughts without clinging to them. Notice them arise and pass, just like emotions in daily life. Journaling, the let go exercise. Write down situations or outcomes you are clinging to, and beside each write, "This is outside my control. I release it." Over time, this trains your mind to let go naturally. Gratitude practice. Gratitude is a form of healthy detachment. Instead of clinging to what's missing, you appreciate what is present. This shifts focus from lack to abundance. The misconceptions of detachment. Myth 1. Detachment means not caring. False. Detachment means caring deeply but wisely without clinging or desperation. Myth 2. Detachment makes you cold. On the contrary, detachment makes you more loving. You give without expecting, and your presence becomes freer and more genuine. Myth 3. Detachment is escape. Detachment is not avoiding life. It's engaging with life fully while refusing to be controlled by outcome. By mastering detachment, you step into a state of calm power, where nothing external can dictate your peace. Chapter 7. Emotional detachment. Mastering the inner shield. Emotions are powerful forces. They can inspire us to great heights or drag us into destructive decisions. In negotiation, conflict, relationships, and even in day-to-day life, the ability to maintain emotional detachment is one of the strongest shields you can wield. This does not mean shutting off your feelings completely. On the contrary, it means learning to control your inner world so that no external circumstance dictates your peace of mind. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is not apathy. It is strength. When you master emotional detachment, you free yourself from the grip of impulsive reactions, manipulation, and unnecessary suffering. You begin to act from choice, not from compulsion. You begin to stand rooted like a tree in a storm, unshaken even when chaos surrounds you. In this chapter, we will explore the true meaning of emotional detachment, why it is essential for emotional control, practical methods to build detachment in daily life, how to balance detachment with compassion and human connection, real-world applications of emotional detachment in conflict, negotiation, and personal growth. But true detachment is not indifference. It is independence. Think of a surgeon performing a delicate operation. If he becomes too emotionally entangled with the patient's suffering, he may panic or hesitate. But if he remains cold and apathetic, he loses compassion. The right balance is detachment. He is fully present, fully aware, fully focused, but not overwhelmed by emotion. Detachment means you maintain a calm center that is not shaken by external chaos. It is the ability to say, "This is happening, but I will not let it control me. I choose my response." Why emotional detachment is essential. When you lack detachment, you live as a slave to external triggers. Someone insults you, you explode. An opportunity slips away, you collapse in despair. A negotiation gets tense, you panic and make concession. Without detachment, you react impulsively. With detachment, you respond intelligently. Detachment is essential because it gives you mental clarity under pressure. It prevents you from being manipulated by emotional tactics. It helps you make rational long-term decisions instead of short-term emotional ones. It protects your inner peace even when circumstances are uncertain. Imagine a negotiator who cannot stay calm when provoked. His opponent need only push emotional buttons to make him lose control. But a detached negotiator is untouchable. He listens, he considers, but he never reacts rashly. Here are powerful methods to develop it. The pause before responding. Train yourself to pause before reacting to emotional triggers. A deep breath, a few seconds of silence, or simply counting to 3 can save you from saying or doing something impulsive. This creates space between stimulus and response, and in that space lies your freedom. B. Reframe the situation. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Or "How will this matter in 5 years?" Reframing shifts you from emotional reaction to logical perspective. C. Develop observer consciousness. Practice watching your thoughts and emotions like clouds passing in the sky. Say to yourself, "I feel anger rising," instead of "I am angry." This subtle shift reminds you that you are not your emotions, you are the observer of them. D. Practice minimal attachment to outcomes. Detachment doesn't mean you don't care about results. It means you don't cling to them desperately. You do your best, but you accept that the outcome is not fully in your control. This makes you powerful because nothing can unbalance you. E. Meditation and mindfulness. Consistent meditation sharpens awareness and builds emotional resilience. Even 10 minutes daily of observing your breath can rewire your brain to stay calm under pressure. B. Balancing detachment with compassion. Detachment does not mean being cold or distant. It means being compassionate without being consumed. A parent must care for a child, but if they are overly attached, they may suffocate them or suffer needlessly at every small failure. With healthy detachment, they can love, support, and guide without being emotionally destroyed by every challenge. A leader must inspire their team, but if they carry every setback as a personal wound, they will burn out. With detachment, they stay balanced, supportive, and visionary. Remember, detachment allows you to give more, not less. When you are not chained to outcomes, you can act with pure intention, free from fear or insecurity. He can walk away from the table if needed, which gives him immense power. The side that cannot walk away is always weaker. B. In conflict. Detachment keeps you calm when others are emotional. Instead of escalating, you de-escalate. Instead of reacting, you strategize. C. In personal life. Detachment protects you from toxic relationships, gossip, and unnecessary drama. You learn to let go of what does not serve your peace. D. In success and failure. Detachment keeps you humble in success and resilient in failure. You don't let victories make you arrogant, and you don't let setbacks break you. In what areas of your life do you cling too tightly to outcomes, and how might detachment liberate you? When you master detachment, you gain freedom. Freedom from manipulation, freedom from unnecessary suffering, and freedom to choose your response in every situation. Detachment is not the absence of emotion, it is the mastery of emotion. Chapter 8. The Power of Silence. Speaking less, gaining more. Words are powerful, but silence is often even more powerful. In life, in negotiation, in conflict, and in relationships, silence is not emptiness. It is a strategy, a weapon, and a source of strength. Too many people rush to fill the air with noise, mistaking constant talking for influence. But in reality, the person who can control their tongue and master silence often controls the direction of the conversation. In this chapter, we will explore why silence is a powerful force in communication and in negotiation, the psychological impact of silence on others, practical strategies for using silence effectively, common mistakes people make with silence, how silence builds authority, control, and respect in both personal and professional life. 1. Why silence is so powerful. We live in a world addicted to noise. People feel uncomfortable when there is a pause in conversation. They scramble to fill gaps with chatter, explanations, or justifications. But here lies the hidden truth. The one who is comfortable with silence is often the one in control. Silence is powerful because most people cannot stand silence, so they rush to fill it, often revealing too much. It communicates confidence. Silence says, "I don't need to convince you. My presence and my words already stand strong." It demonstrates self-control. Anyone can speak, but few can remain calm and composed in silence. It leaves space for reflection and truth. When silence enters, people think more deeply, and real feelings often surface. Think of silence as a chess move. Every pause, every withheld word, every moment of restraint shifts the energy of the conversation and creates an opening for insight, control, or influence. Prolonged pauses make people uneasy, and in their rush to break the silence, they often expose what they would otherwise guard. This makes silence a psychological liver. Silence creates discomfort. In negotiations, when you present an offer and then fall silent, the other side feels compelled to speak. They may negotiate against themselves by offering concessions or revealing hidden motive. B. Silence amplifies your words. If you speak too much, your words lose weight. But when you use silence, the words you do choose to speak land with greater impact. Silence acts as punctuation, turning a simple statement into something memorable. Silence encourages honesty. When you stay quiet, others often fill the gap by speaking more openly. They feel pressure to justify themselves, and in doing so they often reveal truths they didn't intend to share. D. Silence demonstrates emotional control. When provoked, most people snap back instantly, but when you remain silent, you signal that you are not easily manipulated. Silence becomes a shield, protecting you from being dragged into emotional traps. Practical strategies for using silence. Silence is not simply about saying nothing. It must be used with intention and timing. Here are strategies to master silence. A. The silent pause after a statement. When you make a strong point, let silence follow. Don't rush to soften it. Don't explain further. Let the silence emphasize your words, and let the other person sit with the weight of what you said. B. Silence after asking a question. This is one of the most powerful techniques in negotiation. Ask a question, then, even if the other person resists, remain silent. The longer the silence stretches, the more likely they are to answer with honesty. Say, using silence to diffuse conflict. In heated moments, silence prevents escalation. Instead of matching aggression with aggression, silence absorbs the energy. It unsettles the other person, and often forces them to lower their tone. D. Silence as a display of confidence. When you remain calm and quiet while others talk excessively, you project strength. Your silence communicates that you are not desperate for approval or validation. E. Silence to listen actively. True listening requires silence. When you are silent, you can observe not just the words but the tone, the pauses, the body language. You hear what is said and what is unsaid. 4. Common mistakes with silence. While silence is powerful, misusing it can backfire. Here are mistakes to avoid. Using silence as a weapon of punishment. The silent treatment is toxic in relationships. Silence should be intentional, not manipulative. Overusing silence. If you stay too quiet, people may see you as passive or disengaged. Balance is key. Breaking silence too quickly. The moment you rush to fill a pause, you give away power. Resist the urge. Using silence without awareness. Silence must be paired with body language. If your silence looks like uncertainty or fear, it weakens your presence. In a negotiation, silence communicates that you have options, that you are not desperate. In leadership, silence shows you are not reactive but deliberate. People trust those who think before speaking. In personal life, silence helps you avoid unnecessary drama. By not reacting immediately, you often prevent arguments from even beginning. Silence builds a reputation of control. People begin to see you as someone who is thoughtful, deliberate, and in command of yourself. That reputation alone grants authority and respect. Real-world scenarios of silence in action. A. The negotiator's pause. You state your terms. We can move forward if you can agree to this pricing. Then silence. The other side squirms, feels the need to respond, and often gives away more than they intended. B. The conflict resolver. In an argument, instead of shouting back, you remain silent, arms relaxed, breathing steady. The aggressor eventually hears their own anger echoing back at them and realizes they are overreacting. Say, the leader's presence. A leader walks into a room, listens carefully, and speaks only when necessary. Each word carries weight. People leave the room feeling that something important has been said, even if the leader spoke little. How to practice silence in daily life. Consciously pause before responding to texts, emails, or conversations. Meditate in silence daily, training your mind to sit with stillness. Observe silence during conflict, resisting the urge to defend yourself immediately. Let silence be your shield. Do you rush to fill it? How might you use silence more deliberately in your negotiations or relationships? Can you recall a moment when silence spoke louder than words? The ability to remain silent at the right moment gives you control, authority, and insight. While others reveal themselves in their rush to speak, you remain grounded, listening, observing, and influencing, without noise. To master silence is to master presence, and presence is power. Chapter 9. The discipline of detachment. Controlling yourself by letting go. At the heart of emotional control lies a paradox. Sometimes the greatest strength is not in holding tighter, but in letting go. Detachment is not about apathy, and it is not about withdrawing from life. Instead, detachment is about maintaining inner stability no matter what storms rage around you. It is about refusing to let the highs make you arrogant or the lows make you desperate. In negotiation, in relationships, in ambition, and in personal growth, detachment grants you power. It is the discipline of standing firm in yourself, while allowing events and people to move around you without being enslaved by them. In this chapter we will explore how detachment improves decision-making and resilience. For practical strategies for cultivating detachment. Common mistakes people make when trying to practice detachment. How detachment elevates negotiation, leadership, and personal relationships. What detachment really means. Many people confuse detachment with coldness or indifference. They imagine someone who doesn't care, doesn't love, and doesn't engage. But real detachment is very different. Detachment is, you can love fully, but you do not lose yourself if things don't go your way. Being committed without being desperate. You pursue goals with determination, but your identity does not collapse if you face rejection or failure. Engaging fully in the present moment, while letting go of control over outcomes. Detachment is freedom. It is the ability to say, I am responsible for my effort, but I release control of the results. Why detachment is essential for emotional control. Emotional chaos often comes from attachment. The need for things to happen exactly as we imagine. When they don't, we become anxious, angry, or desperate. Detachment, on the other hand, breaks this chain. Freedom from fear. If you are detached, you are not controlled by fear of loss. You can take bold steps because you are not terrified of rejection or failure. Freedom. Freedom from manipulation. People lose power over you when you are not desperate for their approval or agreement. Detachment protects you from being emotionally blackmailed. Clarity of thought. When you detach from outcomes, you can see situations with greater objectivity. Emotions no longer cloud your judgment. Inner peace. Detachment silences the constant chatter of what if and what will they think. It anchors you in calm confidence. 3. How detachment improves decision-making and resilience. Imagine two negotiators. One is desperate to close the deal. The other is committed, but detached. Which one has the upper hand? The desperate negotiator caves under pressure. The detached negotiator holds firm, because he knows if this deal doesn't work, another will. Detachment allows you to act from a place of strength, not weakness. In resilience, detachment is equally powerful. Life will never go exactly as planned. Detachment ensures you don't collapse when setbacks come. Instead, you bounce back, because your identity is not tied to one outcome. 4. Practical strategies for cultivating detachment. Detachment is a discipline. It requires training. Here are actionable ways to practice it. Focus on effort, not outcome. Shift your energy from obsessing over results to controlling what you can. Your input, your actions, your preparation. Say to yourself, I cannot control what they choose, but I can control what I present. But practice delayed response. When emotions run high, detach by not reacting immediately. Create space between stimulus and response. This pause protects you from impulsive decisions. See reframe failure. Detachment means seeing failure not as a catastrophe, but as feedback. When one door closes, detachment frees you to see the next opening. D. Limit emotional overinvestment. It's healthy to care, but when you tie your self-worth to an outcome, you give away control. Detachment means caring, but not collapsing. E. Meditate and journal. Mindfulness practices teach you to observe thoughts without clinging. Journaling helps release emotions onto paper instead of being consumed by them. F. Create backup plans. Detachment is easier when you know you have options. Always remind yourself, this is not the only opportunity. Options create confidence. Confidence creates detachment. Confusing detachment with indifference. True detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care deeply, but wisely. Withdrawing completely. Some people, in trying to detach, cut themselves off emotionally. This isn't detachment. It's avoid. Using detachment as a mask. Pretending to be detached while secretly obsessing is still attachment. Detachment must come from genuine inner stability. Becoming rigid. Detachment should make you flexible, not stubborn. It's about flowing with life, not resisting it. Detachment in negotiation. One of the most dangerous positions in negotiation is needing the deal. When you are desperate, the other side senses it and exploits it. Detachment, however, communicates strength. If you are detached, you can walk away. If you are detached, you negotiate without fear. If you are detached, you project confidence that makes the other side want your agreement even more. A classic phrase in business is the one most willing to walk away controls the negotiation. That willingness comes from detachment. 7. Detachment in leadership. Inspire trust, because people know their leader is steady, not easily swayed by emotions. Detachment creates leaders who are respected because they are not enslaved by insecurity or pride. Detachment in personal life and relationship. In relationships, detachment often becomes unhealthy when it transforms into neediness. Detachment allows love to flourish without suffocation. Detachment does not mean loving less. It means loving freely without ownership. It means respecting the other person's choices while maintaining your own center. It prevents you from being manipulated by emotional highs and lows. Detachment gives you the ability to say, I love you deeply, but I will not lose myself for you. That strength actually deepens respect and attraction. When you succeed, detach from pride and stay humble. When you fail, detach from despair and focus on lessons. Detachment is not a one-time event. It is a lifelong discipline, practiced in the small moments of everyday life. Real-world examples of detachment in action. The investor. Successful investors detach from daily stock market swings. They don't panic with every dip. They think long-term. The athlete. Elite athletes detach from the scoreboard, focusing instead on their performance. The parent. Wise parents practice detachment by guiding their children but not controlling them. They love, support, and let go, allowing their children to grow. How does that attachment create anxiety, fear, or conflict? What would change if you practiced detachment in that area? It is the discipline of controlling yourself, your reactions and your emotions, while releasing control of everything else. The detached person cannot be manipulated, cannot be broken by setbacks, and cannot be enslaved by outcomes. Detachment is freedom, and freedom is the highest form of power. Chapter 10: Mastering the Art of Emotional Control. The Power of Not Reacting. Every journey must arrive at its destination, and our journey has been one of discovery, practice and transformation, from silence to patience, from self-awareness to detachment, from mastering reactions to reclaiming your inner power. We have been building toward one truth. The power of not reacting is the power to live free, focused and unshakable. This final chapter will tie everything together, offering not only reflection, but also practical reinforcement. Here you will learn how to integrate emotional control into every area of your life. so that it becomes not just something you practice in moments of conflict, but a way of living every day. Why emotional control is the highest form of strength. Think about it. Armies, wealth, and influence can be stripped away, but inner control, the ability to master your emotions, cannot be taken from you. That is why Stoics, warriors, leaders, and visionaries across history emphasized it. A reactive person is a prisoner of circumstance. Their emotions are like puppets pulled by strings of external events. A controlled person is a master of circumstance. They remain centered while events swirl around them. This does not mean ignoring emotion. It means using them instead of being used by them. True power is not in controlling others. It is in controlling yourself. When you master this, you cannot be manipulated, shaken, or broken. You become steady in a world that thrives on chaos. The circle of control and surrender. One of the most practical frameworks for emotional mastery is distinguishing between what you cannot control, other people's opinions, external events, unexpected obstacles. Reacting emotionally to what is outside your control drains energy, focus, and peace. Releasing it gives you freedom. Instead of fighting what you cannot control, surrender it. Instead of ignoring what you can control, master it. This dual practice, control plus surrender, is the essence of emotional strength. 3. The final practice. Respond. Don't react. Everything we have explored comes down to this principle. Stop reacting. Start responding. Reactions are automatic, emotional, and often destructive. Responses are intentional, thoughtful, and strategic. The difference between reaction and response can save a relationship, win a negotiation. Before every decision, pause. Ask, am I reacting from impulse, or am I responding with wisdom? This pause is the ultimate tool of emotional control. Emotional control in the real world. Let's bring this home by seeing how this discipline plays out in daily life. At work, instead of snapping at criticism, you detach, analyze, and respond calmly. You gain respect instead of creating enemies. In negotiation, instead of showing desperation, you remain detached. You hold your position with confidence, often walking away stronger. In relationships, instead of letting insecurity or anger drive you, you respond with clarity, honesty, and calm. This deepens trust and respect. In leadership, instead of micromanaging or reacting to every crisis, you maintain a calm center. Your steadiness inspires confidence in those you lead. In daily stress, instead of being overwhelmed by setbacks, you step back and see them as temporary. You adapt with strength, not panic. The person who does not react is not passive. They are powerful. Their silence is not weakness, it is wisdom. Their patience is not inaction, it is strategy. Building a lifetime discipline. Emotional control is not a one-time lesson, it is a lifelong discipline. Like any skill, it sharpens with practice. Here are ways to strengthen it every day. Morning intention. Begin each day by setting an emotional intention. Example, today, I will remain calm no matter what comes. Daily reflection. At night, ask yourself, where did I react today? Where did I respond wisely? Write it down. Awareness builds mastery. Micro practices. In small frustrations, traffic, delays, disagreements, practice silence, patience, and detachment. These small victories train you for larger challenges. Accountability partner. Share your goal of emotional control with someone you trust. Ask them to observe and give feedback. Anchor phrase. Create a short phrase that reminds you to stay calm. Example, pause and breathe. Repeat it in moments of stress. Over time, emotional mastery becomes your natural state. Respected presence. People admire and trust those who stay calm under pressure. Personal power. You no longer waste energy on things outside your control. That energy fuels your growth and purpose. You recognize that others' actions do not define you. You realize that your true strength lies in inner steadiness, not external circumstances. This is why the sages, the Stoics, the warriors, and the leaders all said in different words the same truth. Master yourself, and you master the world. Who has power over you? because you give it away through emotional reactions. What would your life look like if you practiced calm detachment in those areas? I will master myself. It is the foundation of leadership, resilience, and personal freedom. Each time you choose calm over chaos, patience over impulse, detachment over desperation, you win a victory over yourself. And those victories, compounded over time, transform your life. So, walk forward with this truth. You do not need to control the world. You only need to control yourself. That is where your freedom, your power, and your future lies. And before you go, if this audiobook has given you clarity, strength, or even one practical tool to transform your life, I encourage you, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. Together, we can spread wisdom, strengthen minds, and build a world where more people choose self-mastery over reaction.